Let's talk about Cairo in the 1930s. There's a storm brewing, and it's not just in the streets, it's right inside the walls of a single family's home. Today, we're diving deep into Naguib Mahfouz's masterpiece, Sugar Street, to see how the story of one family tells the tale of an entire nation on the brink of a revolution.
Now, that quote might sound like some classic teenage rebellion, right? But it's so much more than that. This is a revolutionary creed. For the new generation in Sugar Street, parents aren't a foundation to build on. They're an anchor holding them back, and they are more than ready to cut that chain.
And for the al-Jawad family, this tension is literally everything. Mahfouz uses their household, from the patriarch who's losing his grip to his grandsons who are becoming political radicals, as a microcosm for Egypt itself. It's a nation caught between a powerful, fading past and an explosive, completely uncertain future.
To really get the revolution, we first have to understand the world it's rebelling against. And that world is personified by one man, the family patriarch, Al-Sayyid Ahmad al-Jawad.
You can almost feel the vulnerability behind the once mighty patriarch here. He's constantly measuring himself against his own father, who's like this giant in his memory, and he just feels like he's coming up short. Those white hairs, they're not just about getting older, they're symbols of what he sees as weakness, a fall from a golden age.
And his personal decline? It perfectly mirrors the world that's changing all around him. The neighborhood that used to be his playground is now, in his eyes, just ruined. His friends are all gone. He's even getting his clothes taken in to fit his shrinking frame. The world that made him a king is disappearing, and he's shrinking right along with it.
For the older generation, as their world just vanishes, all they have left is memory. But nostalgia, well, it's a heavy burden. It's this constant ache for a time that you can never, ever get back. This is the painful beauty of looking back, isn't it? It's not about remembering a specific day. He can't even remember the year. It's all about the feeling of the past, this powerful longing for a time when he was at the top of his game. Memory becomes both a comfort and a kind of torment.
And here we see the most tragic consequence of being trapped by the past. Aisha is so consumed by grief that it has physically dismantled her. The book describes her as basically a skeleton covered in faded skin. She is the living, breathing embodiment of what happens when you just can't move on. The past literally consumes you.
Now, all these family dramas aren't happening in a vacuum. The very same forces of change that are tearing the al-Jawads apart are also setting the streets of Cairo on fire. So let's take a look at how this political awakening is reshaping the entire nation.
Our bridge between these two worlds is Kamal, the patriarch's youngest son. He's a teacher, an intellectual, and he lives entirely in his head. He spends his nights reading Western philosophers, just grappling with these huge, abstract questions about the meaninglessness of everything.
And this right here is the central conflict for Kamal's whole generation. How can a man who questions everything also feel such a powerful pull toward nationalist passion? He's trapped between his intellectual skepticism and this deep emotional need to belong to something bigger than himself.
See, politics here isn't just theory. It's a living, breathing force that's uniting people. Strangers on their way to a rally suddenly become comrades, connected by their shared hatred of the British and their loyalty to the Waft Party. It gives their lives a purpose that philosophy just can't provide.
Okay, so if Kamal represents the transition, his nephews, the third generation, they represent the explosion. They aren't just questioning the old world, they want to tear it down completely and build something brand new.
Ahmed, one of the grandsons, sees tradition itself as a brake on a country that is already in chains. For him, the only way to make progress is to cut the brake lines entirely. It's a total and complete rejection of the past.
And right here, you see the generational collision in perfect contrast. On one side, you've got Khadijah's traditional view, a woman's education, totally irrelevant. And on the other, the new reality. Love and marriage have become these cold calculations based on a man's salary. The old world of defined roles is just crashing head-on into a new, materialistic one.
And their rebellion is being fueled by all these new, foreign ideas. They're arguing that men and women should be equal, which is a shocking concept to their elders. One grandson gets really into socialism after reading Soviet authors. And they're inspired by women like Sausan Hamad, a driven, intelligent colleague who is their intellectual equal, not just some potential wife to be locked away at home.
So what happens when all these forces, the crushing weight of the past and the radical pull to the future, all collide inside a single family?
The result is a simple, undeniable fact. The bonds of family,
which were once the strongest force in their lives, are being ripped apart by politics, by philosophy, and by the relentless march of time.
The al-Jawads are caught in a massive tug-of-war between two worlds. The gravity of the past, a world of tradition and certainty, is pulling them in one direction. But the promise of the future, a future of radical equality and freedom, is pulling them in another. The problem is, this new world is still being written, and it's not at all clear if there's going to be a place for them in it.
And this leaves us with the central question of the novel, and maybe a question for all of us. As we watch the al-Jawad family get torn apart by change, we can't help but ask ourselves, are we just destined to repeat the patterns of our parents, or can we truly break free and write a new story for ourselves?